All right, everyone, welcome to Combat Radio. You're going to thank us. In fact, just thank us right now. We've got a fantastic conversation planned. Well, as far as we plan things, this has been planned. Of course, we don't plan things any more than maybe a text message or exchange or a phone call. We go, hey, you know what? Remember this? Yeah, we should talk about that.
Yeah.
And that happened this week by the maestro, legendary former Warner Brothers VP Bill Daly, who we were just shocked to discover we've known each other for now almost 25 years. Terrifying for him, funny for me. And today's conversation is going to center around a Warner Brothers classic. Now, which classic, you may ask? Something from the Kubrick archives? Something from John Ford? What
Something
classic?
from the DC universe, actually.
Yes. Yeah. No, my friends, we've gone on a deep dive to bring you something quite special. The movie you all know and love, or you all know. And maybe you'll love it after this. Jonah Hex. We talk
Jonah
about
Hex.
Jonah Hex,
Thing,
2010.
nothing will make me love it.
Oh,
Okay.
we go back a ways, and here's the thing. As always with these movies, it's not about making fun of production mishaps as much as it is trying to understand the mishap itself and what happened. And this is one of those classic cases. I mean, I remember when this was production, even my wife was coming back to the house saying, "You're not going to believe what's going on with
Yeah.
Josh Brolin at the studio." But more on that in a minute. It's Combat Radio, and we'll be right back to kick off all things Jonah Hex. You're welcome.
NMOSB is a disease that can blind you, paralyze you, or kill you. But the good news is doctors seem to think they're very close to a cure. They also seem to think that a cure for NMOSD will be a cure for cancer. So that's a two-for-one that I can't ignore, and if you're like me, you would donate today to the Guthrie Jackson Foundation. My name is Steve Surgic, and I approve this message.
Well, we've been doing combat radio. Sonny Landham, Billy the Indian from Predator, and I first stepped into a radio studio back in early 2009. Bill Daly's been one of our favorite guests for however long that is now.
Since about
The
2012,
show.
I'd say. I think
Yeah.
that's when I became aware of it.
Yeah, and you've told some of the best stories, but I will say something about Bill Daly. He doesn't like to tell the same story twice. If I ask him for a moment in his production history that's comical or fun, he'll sometimes say, I've already told that story, which is interesting because he's the only guest also that assumes that our listeners, such as they are, hear everything he said. But we brought him back. We've
They
actually,
don't? Oh, you mean they don't?
I don't know if they've got sort of that biblical level of attention to it, but
Oh,
maybe they do. Maybe they do. I mean, actually, I get surprised by what people ask me, and sometimes from over a decade ago, as if I'm going to remember. But whatever. I'm here for the people. All right. So let's just take it from one step at a time.
right.
Today's conversation.
Well, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is mostly going to be new because I've been reluctant to talk about Jonah Hex in any kind of detail. In broad terms, what a disappointment it was, and but yeah, I do. There's an article. Everybody should know. There's an article that I forwarded to you that came from someone else about Josh Brolin and his feelings about Jonah Hex. And the title of it, the headline was that Josh Brolin will never stop shitting on Jonah Hex. Okay. And which is great because neither will I.
Okay.
So
So let's go to Exhibit A in the Jonah Hex evidence vault. The movie itself, before we get to people's opinions on the creative side, how did this come about at Warner Brothers? Because
this,
I think I was based with Frank Darabont. I was next to Frank Darabont at the Warner Hollywood lot at this time. This is like 2008, 9 when this started getting momentum, right? It came out in
2009 for
10.
sure. 2009 for sure. We finished it in 2010. It
Hmm.
probably came out very late 2010 or early 2011. Um,
Right.
it when it first hit our production status report, Neville Dean and Taylor were attached to it. And if you look at the credits, they're still
Are
credited as
those
the writers of it. I'm looking
are those the
now.
crank? Were those the
Now,
crank? Who are the
yes, they were the
Yeah,
crank
okay.
guys, Mark Neville Dean and Brian Taylor. And I had just, I mean, it's a long story. I'm not going to go through the whole story, but I
Mm.
had seen Crank. Then I saw their names were attached to Jonah Hex, and I'm like, I'm going to meet these guys.
Yeah, promising.
Yeah,
Promising.
positively, I did want to meet these guys. And then they were in production with Crank 2 here in LA. And the production exec on Jonah Hex was Ravi Mehta, who then went on to become the head of Fox. He's the head of Fox.
Right. Right.
So
I remember Ravi.
Ravi and I went to the set. They were doing a location set at the power plant in Glendale, California, and it's right on the border with Burbank. And that's what they do. All the cities put their power plants right on the border with the next city. I guess in case there's a mishap, I don't know. But
that real quick,
so-
that sounds like my cousin's PT boat story from Nam, where the Army built the base and the Navy had us, and they put the ammo depot right on the perimeter with the Navy PT boat line. So if it got hit by a mortar round, it would blow them off the map. And that's just what I thought about. I bet you that is why they put it next to Glendale in case.
Well, my guess is
smoke,
that,
but anyway.
and then Glendale's power plant was on the border with LA. And and I know Pasadena's is on the border with South Pasadena. And if South Pasadena was smart, they'd put theirs on the border, the same border, but they didn't. So so that's usually on the border. It's probably property that's not really prime property, so they put it where they can, and without
maybe
rushing property values.
So they're shooting at this place, right? So
they're shooting at the Glendale power plant, and Ravi and I went over there, and so we got to meet Neville Dean and Taylor. Jason Statham was there. He was doing a stunt where he was jumping over the fence and he was going in among all the power plant equipment. And they didn't shut this place down. It was still running. And I was like, is it? And there's hazardous signs all over the place. And Jason
Crew's got
Statham,
hard hats, probably waiting
Jason
to find
Statham
out.
had, boy, he was game. He was really game. He was no problem, mate. And he'd jump over the fences, and all this stuff. It was really cool. And the two of those guys were amazing to watch because they have this visual style about them, a lot of moving cameras and stuff. It was amazing to watch these guys because they would do tracking shots. They'd be on rollerblades. I'm not kidding. And they would attach the cameras. They had these little digital cameras, 4K or whatever. I mean, really high resolution video cameras, and they would attach them to broom handles, and they're on inline skates, and they're like hockey players moving around, but with the camera there, and it was absolutely amazing to watch that. So I was curious to see what they would do with Jonah Hex. I picked up part of the material that we got from DC in advance of this was one of the comic books.
I want to know what's funny about this is I was just thinking about this morning after a meeting with my editor. Actually, we talked about this project that we were going to talk Jonah Hex, and it got me thinking that it was a comic. And I realized that growing up surfing in Laguna Beach, I had not seen a physical comic book in my life until I was about 9 years old. Can you believe that?
Wow.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
I just never had, and I can even remember the first one I saw. It was a Star Wars one, which is probably a collector's item now. Anyway, so this was a comic, right?
Yeah.
But
I don't remember Jonah Hex being a comic, and specific. I don't remember being a comic at all, and I certainly don't remember DC.
But circling back though, I think Jonah Hex is a later comic though, right? 70s, 80s, somewhere in there.
It's
We're going
gotta
to
be
get ripped
because
apart.
they gave me one. They gave me one to look at, and because when you read comic books, it's like looking at storyboards. I mean, really.
Your road to redemption is paved with tombstones. No quarter, kill all masters. Go to noquarterkillallmasters.com. Rated R.